I'm Harlan Price, 72 years old, retired mechanic, grandfather of one, and as of this morning, the man who froze $17,800 of my own son's wedding budget while standing 15 feet from the open bar. Don't worry, the bar still poured drinks. People still danced under the string lights, pretending not to notice the tension climbing through the tent like Texas heat. But make no mistake, the moment I took the mic, everything shifted. I hadn't planned to speak. They hadn't planned for me to speak either. Rhea, my oldest, was the one who asked me to keep things smooth and quiet. Her words, said it with a smile as thin as a dollar store napkin. Dad, just enjoy yourself today, okay? Don't get into the weeds. No talk about bills or roofing or the water heater again. Just be present. And I was present. I stood right there, present in a pressed shirt she picked beside a wooden barrel they'd dressed up as a cocktail table. The barn behind us was strung with Edison bulbs and rented lanterns. The florist had outdone herself with the eucalyptus garlands. It all smelled like money and roses. Cole, my son, the groom, looked sharp. Nervous but sharp. The bride-sweet girl had no idea what was brewing. Most people didn't. That's how you keep power when you're old. Keep your mouth shut until the table's set, then lay your card face up. That day's card: escrow hold. But let's back up. I live in Westlake Hills, just outside Austin, Texas. Hilly, hot, and full of homeowners associations who'd fine you $42 for leaving your trash can visible for more than 12 minutes past pickup. I know because I've paid it 3 times. My house sits on a quiet loop where Ring doorbells are more alert than the actual neighbors. Most people nod and smile, none really talk. That's fine, I don't need talk. I like the chirp of the smart mailbox when the mailman drops off Rhea's latest online shopping spree. I like the way the porch creaks just before it settles. And until a week ago, my daughter believed she owned that porch. They all did. It's funny, really. The Ring camera caught it. Rhea and her husband Soren standing on my front step after dark, whispering about the wedding budget. Soren said, "We're over by 412 on the HOA landscaping violation. Just push it to your dad's end. He never checks." Rhea laughed. "Yeah, he thinks this house is a gift." That clip was 27 seconds. I've watched it 15 times. And I said nothing. Just like I said nothing when they sent me the vendor invoice, my name at the top, totaling $17,800 for the rehearsal celebration. No request, no heads up. Just the assumption old Harlan will pay. And that's the part that stuck. The assumption. Because they forgot what I do when people assume. See, I didn't argue, didn't text or call, didn't bring it up at brunch 2 days later when Rhea handed me an outfit bag and told me, "You'll look great next to the wine barrels in this color, Dad." I nodded, said thank you, took the bag, pressed the shirt, folded the clip from the Ring video into a folder, printed the invoice, drove myself down to the county clerk's office and pulled my own deed. People forget who owns what when the walls are quiet, but paper remembers. That's what I told my lawyer Tilda Kay when we met that Wednesday. "You ready for this, Harlan?" she asked. I said I've been ready for 19 years. They just didn't know it. She smiled, sharp woman, wrote up the escrow freeze and arranged for a notary to be present at the wedding quietly, of course. When the wedding day came, I arrived early, tipped the valet, nodded at the event coordinator who offered me sparkling water and called me Mr. Price with a sweet southern twist. The guests arrived in linen suits and cocktail dresses. Rhea walked around directing traffic like she was the mayor. Soren stood with a whiskey and a phone double-checking the playlist. And I waited. Waited while Cole stood at the altar, his hand shaking just a little when he reached for his brides. Waited while the officiant talked about family and legacy, and I swallowed the taste of irony with my club soda. Waited while the servers poured champagne and passed hors d'oeuvres. Waited until the microphone came out. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC said, "before we begin dinner, we have a few words from the father of the groom, Harlan Price." The tent clapped. Some stood. Rhea didn't. Her face held still, but her eyes darted. I stepped up to the mic. Paused. Then I said, "Before we raise our glasses, I want to thank everyone who made today possible. The weather, the florist, the brisket, even the bartender. Tip him well. He earned it." Laughter. A few claps. I went on. "There's just one note I'd like to make. Not about love or marriage or the future, though I hope it's full and kind. No, I'd like to talk about money." Silence. "I've placed a hold on all pending payments related to this event through escrow. That includes venue catering and vendor transfers listed under my name. There's been a mistake, and until it's cleared, the funds are locked." Whispers. Zoran stood straighter. Ria's face flushed. I kept my tone easy. If anyone needs confirmation, please speak to the venue manager. The override signature is on file. In the meantime, I wish you all a lovely evening. I stepped away. That was how it started. The story they'll tell isn't about the vows or the music. It's not about the wine or the speeches. It starts with a 72-year-old man who remembered what he owned and refused to be treated like a walking checkbook. The last time I raised my voice was in 1987, in a parts shop off Burnett Road, yelling at a kid who swapped a V-belt for a serpentine. That was before my hair went white, before I stopped believing noise could fix stupid. I've found better tools since. Most of them are paper. Let me tell you something most folks forget. When people think you're old and quiet, they stop looking over your shoulder. They assume you're checked out or soft or tired, and sometimes you are. But sometimes you're just patient. 19 years ago, I got lucky. Dumb luck, really. A ticket I almost threw away hit for one Phaeton Trier Dola. It didn't feel real at the time. I remember holding the numbers under the kitchen light, reading them 3 times. I didn't scream, didn't tell anyone. Not even my late wife. God rest her. She'd passed a year before. I went to a financial advisor in Houston the next day, walked in with a check and a question, how do I disappear this legally? He raised an eyebrow. Disappear. Not from taxes, I said, from expectation. That man earned every penny I paid him. Together we built a holding company, Cimarron Oaks LLC. Harmless name, sounds like a golf course. Under that LLC, I bought the house I now live in, or should say the house Ria thinks is hers. You see, I told her back then, let's find a place big enough for you and Cole to come by, bring the kids when they come. I'll stay out of the way. You manage the details. She picked it out. Custom backsplash, oversized fridge, a smart oven with a touch screen that's broken more times than I can count. She assumed I paid for it out of guilt, or maybe just to help out. I let her assume. That's a theme in my life. And every month she transferred what she called Dad's rent from her checking into mine. She never asked where that money went. Truth is, I deposited it straight into the Cimarron Oaks operations account. Bookkeeping says she was leasing from the LLC. IRS approved. Accountant smiled. I never touched a dime of it. Some might say that's cold. Maybe. But I've seen what happens when you give too much away too fast. People stop being grateful. Then they start being entitled. Then they get dangerous with it. So I stayed quiet, paid the property tax, repaired the HVAC, kept every receipt, every email. 2 weeks ago, something shifted. I was in my kitchen, same spot I stood with that winning ticket making coffee. My phone pinged. A bank alert. Soren had just authorized a charge from our shared event expenses escrow account, $2,000. Marked heating lamps rehearsal dinner. The man's never hosted anything more complex than a football watch party. Now he's pulling $2,000 with my name on the paperwork. That's when I started printing. Pulled the invoice. Ria emailed for the rehearsal event, $17,800, all billed to me. I hadn't agreed. I hadn't even seen the menu. I called Tilda. Tilda K has been my attorney since the week after the lottery hit. She's young but sharp, no nonsense, doesn't ask questions unless the answer can be notarized. I'm ready, I said. She didn't ask for details, just said come in tomorrow. We met at her office, modest place with a dying ficus and strong coffee. I brought the documents, the deed filed under Cimarron Oaks, the wire records, the invoice, and the ring transcript. We walked through the options. First, she filed a county clerk request. We verified that the home was still recorded under the LLC, with me listed as managing member holding 51% of controlling interest. That number matters. People hear 51 and think majority. It's more than that. It's a veto. Then she drafted a notice of escrow hold citing suspicious charges and misrepresentation of authority. The funds related to the wedding would be locked pending my sign-off. But that wasn't enough. I wanted insulation. So we added a conditional power of attorney, a clause that clearly states no one touches my assets or accounts unless I'm declared legally incapacitated by a neutral third-party physician. Not a family doctor. Not someone Ria finds on Yelp. We filed a quitclaim deed in escrow, signed but undated, ready to trigger if needed to transfer ownership out of the LLC under my instruction. Finally, Tilda updated my living trust. My granddaughter Lena would be the sole beneficiary of the house, and the remainder of the trust contingent on completion of college or equivalent trade certification. Ria and Soren were explicitly excluded. No lawsuits, no contests, no inheritance. We added a codicil, a notarized amendment, to ensure it held against probate challenges. When it was all assembled, she slid a sealed envelope across the table. "This contains the full packet," she said. "Do not open it unless things go nuclear." I nodded, took the envelope, tucked it in my suit jacket. "Are you sure you want to do this at the wedding?" she asked. "They made the wedding the venue," I replied. "Not me." She smiled. "I'll be there," she said, quietly. As I walked out, she added, "One last thing, Harlan. When you speak, keep it short. Not sweet, just short." "I've been short for 19 years, I said. The notary met me 2 days later to verify identity and witness documents. He'll be seated near the back row, dressed like a guest. If needed, he'll raise his hand and confirm every signature in that envelope. Silent power only works if your backup can speak when you don't. There's something satisfying about a folder that clicks shut. Not a metaphor. I mean a real folder. Legal-grade double clasp. The kind that makes a clean metallic snap when you seal it. I had one in my hands the morning of the wedding. Inside everything I'd need if the quiet wasn't enough. When you're 72, people expect confusion, loose details, paper trails that wander. That's what they count on. But I come from the old way: carburetors, socket wrenches, wiring diagrams, and grease pencil. I don't forget which bolt goes where. So when I saw that $2,000 charge hit our shared escrow account labeled heating lamps for rehearsal dinner, I didn't miss a beat. That money wasn't supposed to move without dual confirmation, and I sure as hell hadn't confirmed anything. I called Tilda. She didn't even sound surprised. "Let's trigger the first lock." That lock was escrow freeze. On paper, the account funding the wedding had my name on it as co-signer. Rhea claimed it was symbolic, said they needed a parent's name for the venue's insurance forms. I let her think I believed that. Now, with one form and a notarized email, Tilda filed to suspend all payments linked to the event venue catering rentals. The wire that was supposed to go through the day before held. The backup card tied to my name suspended. Next came the second lock POA with conditions. Rhea always floated the idea that if anything happens, she'd handle things. Set up automatic bill pay, draft a living will. I told her no every time. Still, she brought it up, usually after a glass of wine or whenever a story about aging parents popped up on her phone. So I created the kind of power of attorney that's like a tripwire. Looks harmless, sits dormant, but won't activate unless two things happen. First, a state-certified non-family physician must declare me medically incapacitated. Second, the certification must be filed with the county and verified by Tilda herself. No doctor shopping. No backdoor claims. And until both conditions are met, no one can touch a dollar, a deed, or a digital lock tied to my name. We attach that POA to the trust documents and to the deed record through Cimarron Oaks, LLC, just in case Rhea ever tried to claim I wasn't fit to manage my affairs. I also signed a quitclaim deed not filed, just held. If I wanted to transfer property out of the LLC, I could do it instantly without a signature from anyone else. That quitclaim sat in the same folder next to a clean copy of the LLC's operating agreement, Harlan Price, managing member, 51% control. Then came the codicil. My will already left everything to Lena, my granddaughter, my little bean sprout, the only person in that family who looks me in the eye without calculation. But the codicil made it clearer: the house, the remaining trust assets, and any proceeds from the sale of Westlake Hills would go to Lena and Lena alone. Rhea and Soren were excluded. Not reduced, removed. If they contested, they'd forfeit their share of the family trust entirely. Tilda had the codicil notarized and recorded. It was valid in court, would hold up in probate, and best of all, it was invisible. Unless they went looking, they'd never know it existed. We tied everything into a final packet. Tilda's clerk wrapped it in a security sleeve, then placed it in a manila envelope stamped with red wax, activate only on instruction of H. Price, or if estate enters probate. And then we added a quiet guest to the wedding. The notary. Name's Clark. 65 years old, Army vet, former real estate officer. Tilda trusts him. He was seated in the back near the buffet. Nobody noticed the badge in his wallet or the copy of my LLC agreement folded in his inside pocket. He wasn't there to make a scene. He was there in case someone else did. While everyone else was focused on playlists and play settings, I had built a legal perimeter around my life. Invisible but impenetrable. Still, something lingered. I kept thinking about that ring clip. The way Rhea said he thinks the house is a gift, like I was a checkbook with shoes. Like the last 19 years of restraint, of silence, of letting her believe she was the one managing the house, none of it mattered. She never asked who paid the taxes, or why every major repair came with a receipt addressed to Cimarron Oaks. She assumed, and I let her, because the easiest way to control a system is to let people think they run it. That night, the night before the wedding, I sat at my desk with my old radio humming some scratchy jazz tune, and I logged into the smart home dashboard. The digital lock still had Rhea and Soren listed as primary residents. I moved them to guest access. Set an expiration for 48 hours after the wedding. Just enough time to collect their things if needed. Then I opened the group chat thread from earlier that week, the one Rhea had accidentally left me in when she created a planning group called Event Logistics Plus Vendors. Her mistake. She hadn't noticed I was still there. I scrolled back. One message stood out. It was Soren joking. If your dad croaks before Sunday, we save $86K and get the house. Do we send flowers or just thank him in the program? I didn't screenshot it. I printed it, folded it, slipped it into the folder. Between the codicil and the escrow hold notice. Clark the notary would see it before we left the venue, just in case anything got loud. You don't prepare for war with noise. You prepare with paper. I've always liked weddings. Not for the ceremony. Not even for the food, though the brisket that day was decent. No, I like weddings because they're built on illusion. Everyone puts on the good suit. Everyone pretends their family's not falling apart. You sit next to someone who lied to you last year and you both smile for the photographer. It's beautiful in a way, temporary truth built on mutual denial. But I wasn't there to deny anything that day. I stood just outside the main tent watching the breeze pull at the linen tablecloths. Inside, the DJ tested the mic. The wedding coordinator flitted around like a hummingbird, whispering things into a headset no one else wore. Rhea was checking centerpieces. Soren was already on his second whiskey. Cole. It looked happy. God help me, that's what made this harder. He's a good kid. Not the brightest, not the most assertive, but he's never mean. That's why I waited until after the vows. I wasn't going to hijack the altar. I wasn't going to ruin his promises. But I was going to ruin the illusion. The MC tapped the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, before we invite you to the buffet, we're thrilled to welcome the father of the groom, Mr. Harlan Price, to say a few words. Polite applause. Rhea's eyes met mine across the tent. Flat, tight, bracing. I walked to the mic. Held it for a second before speaking. Thank you, I said. It's been a beautiful day. The weather held. The bride looked radiant. The brisket was tender. I want to thank the venue, the caterers, the florists, and the staff. You've all done wonderful work. A few nods, soft murmurs of approval. But before we continue, I need to clarify something important. It concerns the payments associated with this event. Silence. I could feel it, like when an engine stops purring and starts knocking. I've filed an escrow freeze on all pending wedding payments tied to my name. That includes the venue catering and third-party vendors. Whispers started instantly. The escrow account, which was co-signed under the impression of shared authority, was accessed without proper consent. Therefore, all disbursements have been locked until the charges can be verified. I didn't look at Rhea or Soren. I didn't need to. The venue manager, a young man in suspenders and a mustache too ambitious for his face, stepped forward, checking his tablet. His eyebrows rose. He whispered to the coordinator. She stared straight at me. I nodded. The override was submitted at 11:06 this morning, I continued, with a certified legal freeze filed by my attorney. Anyone who would like to see it can speak to Mr. Clark seated near the dessert table. He is a registered notary and legal witness to the filing. Clark raised a hand politely. That was when Soren stood. Whoa, what the hell are you doing? He called across the tent. I stayed calm, clarifying ownership. Of what? This event, this venue, this budget. I paused. And the house you've been living in rent-free for the last 19 years. Gasps. Actual gasps. Someone dropped a fork. Rhea stood now too. Dad, she said through clenched teeth. What are you doing? Correcting a few misunderstandings, I replied. Primarily about who owns what and who signs what. I don't understand, she started. You do, I said. You understood when you authorized a $17,800 charge for a rehearsal dinner and listed my name without consent. You understood when Soren pulled $2,000 from escrow for heating lamps. You understood when you told him I never checked the books. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Dad, this isn't the time, Cole said, stepping forward now, his voice unsure. I agree, I said. and turned back to the guests. This isn't the time. But the time was stolen from me when my trust was used like an open wallet. Soren barked a laugh. You're seriously doing this here? I looked at him. Finally. You joked about my death saving you $86,000, I said. In a group chat you didn't think I'd see. Gasps again. Louder. The silence that followed was surgical. I turned back to the mic. Here's what happens now. The event can continue. The food is paid. The music can play. But no further payments will be released until verified. All vendors have been instructed to redirect final invoices to Clark. I held up the envelope from Tilda. The owner of the property, known as 438 Rolling Vista Lane, is Cimarron Oaks, LLC. I hold 51% control. A deposit of $86,000 has been accepted for sale. A 30-day notice of tenancy expiration has been prepared. Key access will expire at 10 o'clock tonight. I looked at Rhea then. Not with anger. With relief. You said you wanted peace, Rhea. You said not to make a scene. This is not a scene. This is a statement. I stepped away from the mic. People started murmuring. Someone pulled out a phone. From the back, Clark approached the MC, speaking quietly. And just like that, the illusion cracked. Not shattered, cracked. People still clapped for the couple, still drank. The DJ still played music. The brisket still vanished, plate by plate. But everywhere I looked, people whispered. Guests refreshed next door. One woman at table 9 started typing a post titled, Father of Groom Freezes Wedding Funds Claims Ownership of Family Home. It got 300 likes before dessert. As for me, I got a ginger ale, stepped outside, and stood under the oaks. A wind picked up rustling the eucalyptus strands Rhea had chosen to match the invitations. I watched them flutter in the light. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel shame. I felt like a man who had just put the right wrench on the right bolt after a long time of watching the engine rattle. There's a sound a room makes when it doesn't know whether to clap or scream. It's not silence. It's the sound of weight shifting in chairs, of phones being unmuted, of champagne flutes being set down a little too fast. I walked back to my seat through that sound. Clark the notary nodded as I passed. He had his documents. I had mine. Soren didn't sit. Rhea didn't blink. Cole looked like a man trying to translate a conversation from a language he'd never studied. I Saturday. And waited. 5 minutes later, the wedding coordinator made a brave attempt to recover. If all guests could please make their way to the buffet, we'll begin dinner service momentarily. Music will resume shortly. I'll give her credit. She earned her paycheck that night. I stepped aside, let the party limp forward. But the house of cards was already tilting. Unmasking ownership. Rhea followed me outside 15 minutes later, her heels clacking like accusations across the patio. Her hands were clenched tight, but her voice stayed low. Credit where it's due. You blindsided us, she said. No, I replied. I corrected you. You embarrassed the entire family. By telling the truth. She went quiet. I pulled a folded sheet from my jacket and handed it to her. It was the county clerk's summary deed record, notarized and time-stamped. Cimarron Oaks, LLC. Property owner. I hold 51%. Always have. Her fingers shook as she read. I decorated that house, she whispered. I picked every fixture. You did, I said. I paid for them. She looked up. I transferred money to you every month. And I logged every transfer as rent received. The IRS has it on file. You're telling me we were just tenants. You were more than that, I said. But legally, yes, tenants at will. Which brings me to this. I handed her a second sheet. Her jaw locked. 30-day termination of tenancy notice signed and dated, effective immediately. There's no need to panic. It's standard, I said. The buyer's deposit is in escrow, $86,000 already wired. Closing date is 32 days out. You have time. Who would even buy it, she snapped. It's not listed. It doesn't need to be, I said. The buyer is a developer. Wants to subdivide the lot. Full cash offer above appraisal. No contingencies. You can't do this. I can. I did. She looked ready to scream, but didn't. She folded the paper's hands, trembling, then walked back into the tent without a word. The internet has entered the chat. I figured that would be the end of it. Quiet retreat, private arguments, maybe a phone call in a few days. But the internet had other plans. By dessert, 3 posts were trending on Nextdoor. The first was from a woman named Donna who sat near the gift table. Local dad shuts down wedding payments, live exposes kids' lies with a legal bombshell. Ring cam proof and receipts. You can't make this stuff up. The second was a screenshot of the group chat posted anonymously. If your dad croaks before Sunday, we save $86K and get the house. Do we send flowers or just thank him in the program? The third was a short video shaky phone footage of me at the mic. I filed an escrow freeze on all pending payments. By morning, the clip had 12,000 shares and a caption war had begun. Some called me a hero. Others said I was a heartless old man ruining his son's wedding. I didn't read the comments. The people who mattered had heard me speak. The rest could refresh. Exit procedures. The next day, Ria sent a 3-line text. We'll vacate by the deadline. You win. I hope it was worth it. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. It was never about winning. It was about stopping the drain. No reply. Soren tried calling. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail I didn't listen to. I did, however, receive a formal email from their family lawyer requesting I reconsider the terms of the eviction and reopen conversation about shared ownership. I forwarded it to Tilda. Her reply was one sentence. Ownership was never shared. We sent back a formal denial CCing Clark with the signed escrow deposit contract. The deed transfer was already in motion. That night I logged into the smart home panel and saw something that made me pause. Soren had tried to log in 6 times. Each attempt failed. The smart lock listed his access level as expired. I left it. At 10 o'clock sharp, the system auto-removed both their profiles. A quiet click from the home hub confirmed the lockout. Funny thing, no alarms went off. No threats came, just silence. The kind that comes when the water stops leaking. The last bricks. Before the sale finalized, I made one more move. I updated the file in Lena's trust. Her name was now attached to the Terrytown property. I was buying a 1-story cottage with a screened porch and a short walk to the river. Nothing flashy but solid, paid in full. The trust would hold title until her 25th birthday or her college graduation, whichever came first. And in the envelope with the deed was a note. To my granddaughter, you were never part of the noise. This is yours when the world stops shouting. I signed it, folded it, and tucked it away. I've never minded paying fines. I mind not knowing what they're for. So when the HOA sent me a letter the day after the wedding, I didn't throw it away. I sat at my desk, opened it slow, and read every word like it was a confession. You are hereby issued a violation under Article 4, Section D, disruption of neighborhood peace during an event held at 438 Rolling Vista Lane. Fine assessed $412. They stapled a photo of me at the microphone. Nice touch. I laughed. Folded the letter. Logged into the HOA portal, yes, even I have an account, and paid the $412 right there. Under memo I typed, final payment from property owner. Then I clicked submit and closed the tab. That was the last thing I paid for that house. The final wire. 3 days after the wedding, the buyer's funds cleared escrow. $860,000, no contingencies. Full inspection waived. The developer wanted the land, not the walls. I'd already removed what mattered, every document, every record, every duplicate key. Tilda called me to confirm. It's done, she said. Transfer finalized. And Clark. He filed the notice with the county clerk. Your name is clean. 0 liens, 0 disputes. Good, I said. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled long and quiet. She added, wires scheduled for 9 a.m. Trust funds will land first, then the residual into your personal account. Split it, I told her. 500 into Lena's trust. The rest send straight to closing for Terrytown. She paused. That little house on Laurel Ridge. I smiled. The one with the red porch swing. She chuckled. You and your porches. You know what I always say, I replied. A man's porch tells you how he thinks about the world. Then I hope yours faces west, she said, so you can watch things set. It does. The new house. The Terrytown place isn't much from the street, 1-story, flat-roof old bricks that fade to peach in the Sunday. But inside it's solid, hardwood floors that creak just enough, a fireplace that's actually been used, a laundry sink deep enough to wash a dog. The kind of house where you can hear rain hit the gutters. And it's mine. No LLC, no trust shell, just Harlan Price on the deed. I signed the closing papers with a black ink pen I've had for 25 years. No lawyer needed this time. Just me, the title officer, and a cup of strong drip coffee. When the clerk asked, "Do you need to add any additional owners?" I said no, not this time. And that was that. Cleaning the desk. Before I left the old house for good, I sat down in the study and opened the locked drawer in the file cabinet. Inside, one yellow folder marked closure. It held 5 things. A printed copy of the Ring transcript. The group chat screenshot printed in color. The county clerk deed lookup. The escrow release notice. A handwritten note folded once. I opened the note. To anyone who finds this, if you are here, the house is gone. But if you are smart, you'll learn what it costs to keep it this long. Power doesn't shout. It signs its name and walks away. HP. I closed the folder, slid it back in, left the drawer unlocked. Let whoever bought the place wonder. Let them build their condos or tear down the walls. The house served its purpose. It shielded me while I needed to be silent. Now silence wasn't protection anymore. It was presence. An empty inbox. Ree hasn't called. Soren did once more. Left a voicemail that started with "you old bastard" and got worse from there. I didn't reply. Cole sent a text. "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't know. I didn't mean for it to get this bad." I replied, "You're a good man. Take care of your wife. Pay your own invoices." He responded with a thumbs up emoji. "I'll take it." A real home. 3 weeks later, I moved into the Terrytown place with nothing but a suitcase, a toolbox, and Lena's crayon drawing of Grandpa's porch that she gave me on her 6th birthday. I hung it by the front door. That first night, I cooked eggs and toast, sat on the red porch swing with a warm plate and no phone in my hand, watched the streetlights flicker on. A couple walked their dog past and waved. I waved back. The porch light buzzed once, then steadied. The breeze smelled like river grass and cedar mulch. Peace isn't Kiyat. It's the absence of interference. It's knowing no one has a key to your lock but you. A man's life doesn't end when his heart stops. It ends when his boundaries blur. That's something I came to believe over time. Not because of a sermon. Not from some best-selling self-help book. But because I watched what happened when I let too many people carry keys to things they didn't build. After the sale, after the wire, after the move, I started closing loops. Final files. The first loop was paperwork. I met Tilda at her office one last time. Her assistant had already prepared the folders neatly labeled, tabbed, color-coded. She handed me 3 of them. Folder 1, trust and codicil. Lena's name, the payout, schedule the deed to the Terrytown house and every clause surrounding its conditions. She doesn't get it all at once. She earns it piece by piece. Not because I don't trust her, but because the world gets tricky when you hand someone the keys too soon. Folder 2, property and sale. The quitclaim deed now officially voided. Escrow closure papers. OA clearance. Payment records to the landscaping crew, pest control final tax stamp. Notarized witnessed filed. Folder 3, power of attorney. Still conditional. Still bulletproof. Still only triggered by incapacity, certified by 2 independent professionals. We added a clause should Tilda retire or pass her authority passes to Lena at age 30. She slid me one last sheet. Statement of revocation. It removed Rhea as an authorized contact on anything related to my financial health or legal affairs. I signed it. It felt like clicking a wrench into place. Taut. Right. Tilda looked at me when I was done. You know, she said, most people who come into money this late in life either spend it too fast or give it to the wrong people. I did both, I said, but not anymore. She smiled. You're free now. No, I said. I'm clean. Freedom's the next room over. Redefining family. Cole came by the Terrytown house a week later. No cameras. No audience. He brought coffee and a box of kolaches. From that little shop on 12th, he said. You always liked the sausage ones. I nodded, took the box, set it on the counter. He didn't sit until I did. We ate quietly for a while. He didn't mention the wedding, or the posts, or Rhea. Eventually, he cleared his throat. I didn't know, he said. I swear I didn't know what they were doing. I believe you, I said. I should have asked more questions. I should have paid attention. No, I interrupted. You should have been a groom, that's all. He stared at his coffee. You still love her, I asked. Yes. Then protect her, but don't defend her, not to me, not when she's wrong. He nodded. I get it now. I hope you do. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope. I don't know if this is right, he said, but I sold some of the honeymoon gifts. Kept the ones from friends, but some of the big-ticket stuff felt wrong. I opened the envelope. Inside a personal check, made out to me, $2,480. I looked at it. Then I tore it in half. This isn't a debt story, Cole, I said. It's a boundary story. Keep the money, but don't forget where the line island. He looked like he might cry. Instead, he stood and said, Thanks, Dad. He hugged me. I let him. When he left, I folded the check pieces in half again and tossed them into the fireplace. Ashes are easier to file than apologies. Legal quiet. A week later, a letter arrived from a law firm I didn't recognize. The return address matched Soren's cousin's office. Figured. Inside, 3 printed pages requesting a formal reconsideration of inheritance rights on behalf of Ria, citing emotional distress, miscommunication, and misguided assumptions regarding financial structure. I read the whole thing twice. Then I mailed back a single-page reply. Dear Counsel, no inheritance exists where no trust was broken. If your client believes love is measured in percentages, tell her to try investing in herself. All legal records are final. No further contact is welcome. Harlan Price. No response came. Sometimes silence really is golden. Paper over people. A week later, I opened the old green filing cabinet I kept in the laundry room, the one that once held car titles and appliance warranties. I added one last folder, folder 4 boundaries. Inside, the torn check from Cole taped back together. The wedding RSVP card I never sent. A photo of the Ring camera screenshot printed in black and white. A copy of the next door post titled Father of Groom Pulls Plug Teaches Entire Neighborhood a Lesson. On the cover of the folder I wrote in pencil, This is what it costs when you let people write their version of your life. I slid it into the drawer, shut it softly, and walked out onto the porch. The air was clean, no calls, no texts, no knocks. That night, for the first time in years, I fell asleep without checking the locks. Because everything I owned was already locked. Properly. I've never been a man for long speeches. Give me a wrench, a part number, and a little daylight, I'll solve what needs fixing. But some things don't tighten with a socket. Some things, like memory, like legacy, require something looser, something slower. So I wrote Lena a letter. Not a will, not a contract, just a letter. With a pen I'd used for so many service invoices over the years, the ink was starting to skip, and I let it. I figured she'd like it better that way, real. I folded the paper in half, slid it into the envelope marked, Open on your 25th birthday, or sooner if things go sideways, and taped it to the inside panel of the cedar trunk in the Terrytown attic. That house has few secrets. This is the only one I intend to leave. The letter. Dear Lena, I hope the world is gentler when you read this than it was the year I wrote it. You might have heard stories about the wedding, about your aunt and uncle, about me. Some stories may call me cruel. Others may say I was brilliant. Don't trust either one too much. The truth is, I was tired of paying for people who confused love with leverage. I gave quietly for years. I kept the peace like people keep an engine running on half oil. Eventually it burns. So I stopped. And in stopping, I made room for you. This house will be yours. Not because I want you to owe me, but because I want you to start without needing to kneel. My only request. Don't ever let someone tell you that silence equals absence. You know me better than that. Keep the porch swing. Oil the hinges every fall. Let the light buzz. Grandpa Harlan. I sealed the letter. No notary, no witness, no legal stamp. Just my name. And my intent. Legacy without apology. That week I changed the deed again, this time, not to a trust, not to a company, but to Lena Marie Price, co-owner, in waiting with a restricted transfer clause that prevents sale without her consent after my death. I wanted her to know that homes aren't just things we live in, they're decisions we carry. The Terrytown place isn't large, but it will never have to prove itself. It doesn't need a statement kitchen or a pergola or a second-floor loft for imaginary guests. It just needs to stand. The same way I learned to. The same way she will. Last visits, last locks. 2 days later, I drove past Rolling Vista Lane. I didn't stop. The lawn was already turning. Some contractor had pulled up the bushes. A big white permit stapled to the oak tree marked future construction. No more porch, no more garland, no more borrowed peace. I didn't feel loss. I felt completion. That house wasn't a home. It was a lesson for them and for me. Sometimes shelter comes in silence. Sometimes silence must be lifted so truth can breathe. 2 lines. I keep a notebook now. Not for journaling, not for memory loss, just for recording the things that still matter. I write 1 line per page, nothing more. Last night I wrote the final 2. The first for Lena. Love without leverage is the only kind worth giving. The second for myself. Power doesn't shout. It signs its name and walks away. I closed the notebook. Then I turned off the lamp. Then I slept. And I did not dream.